Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and though I'm ironically a little late to the party because I was out of town for the last couple of weeks, I'm here now to dive into the reveal of Planet Zoo 2. By now I'm sure most of you have already seen the news. The game is releasing on October 13th, and naturally, it's coming with a slew of new features and mechanics and improvements to get excited over, but I figured I'd put together a little video going over some details to celebrate the news together anyway, even if it is a little late. If you enjoy the video and want to see more Planet Zoo 2 on the channel when it releases, let me know with a like and a comment, and maybe consider sharing the video around as well. Now, with no more time to waste on an introduction and with timestamps down below, let's talk about what's got me most excited for Planet Zoo 2 and why it feels like it'll be a worthy sequel to what was already an amazing game. New enclosures and animal types. First and foremost, let's discuss the additions to the most core aspects of the game, the animals in the zoo and the spaces they live in. Right from the logo animation, Planet Zoo 2 makes it very clear that they're adding aviaries and aquariums, a nice little touch. These additions, I believe, bring us the full slew of animal types that a zoo can hold, alongside what was already made available from the first game. When it comes to birds, we know so far that we'll be getting the great hornbill, the secretary bird, the toko toucan, and the white-tailed sea eagle. The deluxe edition, meanwhile, will also add the golden eagle. Each of these birds will be full-fledged animals, just like any other. They'll need food and water and enrichment, and they'll need to have their spaces kept clean to ensure they stay healthy and happy too. It's really cool to see the birds navigate their spaces, analyzing whatever custom designs the player has put down to figure out where they can and cannot go, and perhaps most intriguingly, where they can perch. My understanding is that while you can put up specific perches as items within the space, the AI will also assess all flat and edge surfaces to figure out if the bird in question can take up a spot amidst your custom constructions. These can be trees and buildings alike, and I'm looking forward to building out some potential photo ops and unique setups and seeing if the birds interact with them as I hope. Aviaries can be built as walk-through enclosures, meaning your guests can get really close to the winged residents, and space and social considerations will determine which species can coexist and how big these enclosures need to be, and also which ones are maybe a little too shy for humans to come up close. The enclosure construction tools are also very interesting here, allowing you to place not just the outer perimeter, but the inner poles as well, and then generating the mesh that covers the space and keeps the birds in. These poles can all be moved around and rotated and scaled as well, meaning you have a lot of control over the shape of the enclosure in all three dimensions, and you can even adjust how taut the netting is to really fine-tune things to your liking. Generally speaking, I'm very impressed by what I've seen so far. It'll all truly be put to the test when we get to go hands-on, but let's be real. With Frontier's track record on these things, the tools will probably be even more versatile than first meets the eye. I can already imagine how you can place various construction assets to hide the poles, and how you can integrate the netting to create really interesting interior spaces, and how... Actually, I'm gonna stop theorizing out loud because I could go on for hours, and I've already got some very fun ideas to explore when I get my hands on the game. But either way, I'm excited to explore both natural and artificial ways that you can decorate aviaries. Moving on are the aquariums, available as both saltwater and freshwater, and parts of these will look somewhat familiar to anybody that tried to make underwater sections of their enclosures visible to guests from underground in the first game. Now though, the glass walls containing these massive volumes of water are easier to build, and you'll be able to decorate these aquariums just like any other enclosure too. With aquariums come a selection of appropriate animals, and the ones we know about so far are the black-spotted puffer, black-tipped reef shark, blue tang, yellow tang, golden trevally, probably pronouncing that terribly wrong, humphead wrasse, ocean sunfish, this absolute goofy thing, pennant coralfish, hawksbill sea turtles, and the spotted eagle ray. The deluxe edition will bring in the axolotl, blue and gold fusilier, long-fin batfish, and the great hammerhead shark. As you might imagine, each species here as well has all the needs and restrictions of any other animal. Consider what can coexist, consider how much space they need, and consider how you'll keep them fed and happy. You'll also, uniquely here, need to consider depth. Your aquarium dwellers will seek to stay at the appropriate depth based on how they actually behave out in the wild, so you'll see a realistic separation in aquariums that are deep enough. What I found to be particularly interesting and sensible is that the aquariums will have two subtypes of animals. Hero animals like the shark and sunfish and sea turtle, all acting as individuals, and then shoals of smaller fish, moving and operating in unison, coming together with the hero animals to create a very immersive and full space. Furthermore, it's interesting to see keepers swap into appropriate gear to manage these aquariums. My understanding is that you don't need a new kind of staff to maintain these spaces, which I think makes sense. There's no need to add that extra layer of management. It's just busy work. There already is enough to consider here. And naturally, all the animals within these aviaries and aquariums will have their own enrichment items, feeders, and more. So there's going to be a slew of new and unique items to put down that fit the animals that'll use them. But there's actually one more type of living space to consider for your animals, though I hesitate to categorize it as an enclosure. Wildlife reserves. In the first Planet Zoo, one of the big goals was to get your animals in great shape so that you could release them into the wild, typically over multiple generations and as a result of well-planned breeding programs. That aspect of the game continues here, especially as Planet Zoo is trying to lean into some of the more core considerations that modern zoos have: education and rehabilitation. But Planet Zoo 2 takes things a little bit further, and it does so in absolutely breathtaking fashion. Much like you could jump between zoos in franchise mode in the first game, in the second one, you can jump between interconnected zoos and wildlife reserves to see how these animals you've released into the wild are getting on, though it's worth noting that only animals with appropriate reserves to be released into can actually be seen in this way. The website says you can conduct research and conservation projects at these reserves to improve your zoos, and I wonder if that means that more advanced research on animals can only be done at well-made and maintained reserves, perhaps? That would be a very interesting added layer if so, but I'm curious to see how it plays out. Minimal staff presence, massive open expanses, and a completely different set of considerations. This was such a cool reveal, and I'm really excited to see how these play and feel when the game releases, and what they mean for the larger Planet Zoo ecosystem, especially in my personal favorite game mode, franchise mode. The hub view of the whole world, though, should connect all the other zoos from the other modes as well, campaign and sandbox alike. But again, I'm looking forward to digging into these details a bit more when I eventually get a chance to go hands-on. Are those two modes now also reliant on some of these franchise-like features? We'll find out. Moving on for now, let's discuss tech upgrades, new visuals, and improved immersion. With Planet Zoo's focus on animals, what with it being a zoo management game and all, I think visual fidelity goes a lot further than for most games in the genre. Seeing the animals up close, interacting with the spaces you've created for them, is a big part of the appeal here, and the first game got so much right that it felt impossible for things to get that much better, and yet, here we are. Naturally, there are the improvements that one would expect, so to speak, with time. As the years have gone by, the devs were able to work on a brand new engine, and as we saw with Planet Coaster 2, this enables a lot of technological improvements that have a general impact across the board. Apart from being able to handle much larger zoos with more verticality and variety, giving us literally more room to play with, global illumination mimics how light bounces and spreads more realistically, not only creating more accurate representations of spaces for us to enjoy, but also helping accurately light typically darker spots in particular, like underground tunnels and caves. It makes these spaces feel more real and visually satisfying, and it forces you to consider things that you didn't really have to with the first game. Generally speaking, forgive how generic this statement is, everything just looks better across the board, from foliage to construction items to, of course, the animals themselves. They've reworked the fur shaders too, and the upgrade becomes very clear, especially when you're looking at the animals side by side. The fur tech alone makes the first game feel like a generation apart. More immediately noticeable, perhaps, are all the efforts put into water. This makes sense when you consider the addition of aquariums to be such a central pillar, but my goodness, it is night and day compared to the first game. Not only does water ripple and react physically to animals and objects interacting with it, but dynamic physics-driven lighting that makes the underwater sections react realistically is absolutely huge, and proper caustics give us those mesmerizing highlights both in and outside of water, making everything in and around bodies of water feel so much more alive and real. It's honestly such a visual game changer and completely blows the first game out of the water, pun entirely intended, creating a much more immersive space. And when it comes to immersion, there's more than just these visual improvements to talk about. Animals will now interact with their spaces in much more believable and realistic ways. Big cats, for example, will use actual trees to scratch up if available, rather than always going to a scratching post to do so. So, no longer will you have to litter your enclosures with artificial objects, as trees, rocks, and other plants are now more than just decorative items. While these were always available for the climbers in an enclosure, now they're much more varied in their uses. And that much better reflects what an animal might do in the enclosure that you've designed for it. And on the topic of the aforementioned climbers, interactions with custom-built jungle gyms are also being taken to the next level here. Those of you that watched me play the first game almost certainly noticed my obsession with really pushing climbing surfaces beyond what's normal and seeing how the various animals manage to interact with them, from monkeys and apes to tigers and more. Well, those interactions have been dialed up a notch here. I'm honestly still blown away that these animals can interpret these crazy custom builds to know how to climb them. I think that's a technical marvel, to be perfectly honest, but now they'll also hang from them rather than just crawl on them. And my favorite, they'll often try to catch a nap if they can find a beam to rest on. I know that sounds like a small thing, but to me, spotting these kinds of moments and being able to build for them just really brings the zoos to life and makes the experience of building these spaces mean so much more. I'm really looking forward to what else we might see here, and I'm so excited by the idea of, being able to build these spaces for these very interesting and unique interactions. Along similar lines of adding immersion is what seems to be the introduction of the hierarchy of needs and how that visually communicates the state of an animal, at least if I've understood things correctly here. An example I was shown was of a tiger without access to water in its enclosure. It got very thirsty, of course, and so it stopped interacting with its enrichment items. It also moved around more slowly and clearly looked unwell and lethargic. You got immediate visual feedback that something was wrong even before opening up the UI, which is just so immensely cool to me. As soon as it got some water though, it perked right up and started strutting around and enjoying its environment once more. These kinds of visual indicators of distress and the hierarchy of needs being reflected in this way, if again I've understood it right, is just absolutely amazing to me, and just another layer of immersion that really makes watching after these animals feel truly special. New tools to build. But if we're talking about things that are truly special, we have to talk about the Planet Games' building tools. The level of customization continues to escalate here, and if you played Planet Coaster 2, you'll perhaps be most happy to know that the upgraded path tools are being ported over. I remember struggling so much with Planet Zoo's path tools at first, especially if I wanted to do anything remotely unusual, eventually getting used to them. But Planet Coaster 2 was worlds apart, allowing for a lot more creativity, and those same capabilities are being brought over here to allow for easier creation of plazas and meandering paths and much, much more. This is a game changer on its own. The tools are a significant upgrade with large stamp shapes, better height and curve controls, and just all-round improved intuitiveness. We're also seeing much better foliage placement options, with brushes being used alongside individual placement to help create dense foliage and coverage with relative ease, and much more realism, to be perfectly honest. There are additional improvements to terrain editing as well, like seemingly the ability to edit terrain underwater without first having to remove the water, which is a sensible upgrade since you'd otherwise have to empty entire aquariums before making even minor adjustments to the enclosures. On top of all this, we're also seeing the introduction of scaling objects. If you watched me play Planet Zoo on the channel, you'll have heard me say over and over again how much I wished we had the option to not just move and rotate individual objects, but scale them up and down too. This option was introduced in Planet Coaster 2, and I'm so glad to see it get carried over to Planet Zoo 2 as well. It really unlocks a whole other level of creativity as well, and I can't wait to experiment with these additional tools. Plus, everything barring plants will now have customizable colors as well. Naturally, as always, the devs are being mindful of the fact that not everybody wants to spend several hours designing storefronts and enclosures, so blueprints remain readily available for those people who just want to use designs provided by the devs or the community. But with Planet Zoo 2, the UI and UX for this has been improved a bit as well, it seems, to better integrate the community creations right into the game. And naturally, there are going to be tons of pieces to build with, including brand new in-universe brands with all the logos and design elements that come with them. Which reminds me, I'm pretty sure we're seeing something very revolutionary when it comes to the guest services buildings like restaurants and shops too, where you no longer just put down clunky boxes and then decorate them as best as possible, instead allowing you to place individual items without the need for 4 walls and a cookie-cutter box where everything happens. So you can make open-air restaurants or larger shops, and I'm hoping the modular shop tools are being ported over to more than just souvenir shops here. Heck, even staff buildings can now be built up from nothing piece by piece. The level of customization here is somehow orders of magnitude higher than the first game, and the first game already felt insurmountable in how much it let players do. Planet Zoo 2 is looking absolutely phenomenal. I'd played so many hundreds of hours of the first game, and the devs kept putting out massive free updates to the base game over the years that I almost wondered what all a sequel could actually bring with it. Turns out the answer is a lot more than I could have ever anticipated. This is looking bigger and better in every meaningful way, from additional animals to technical improvements to quality of life upgrades to amazing new systems and mechanics and a whole new level of immersion. You've heard why I'm excited for the upcoming sequel, but let me know in the comments what's got you most excited. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more Planet Zoo 2 on the channel later this year, let me know with a like and a comment down below too. Don't hesitate to subscribe for more strategic, tactical, and management gaming, and as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. You all keep us alive and running smoothly, and of course a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.